for June 10th.
Isn't Dave vice president? Knock it off, Dave.
All right, let's take the roll.
Steve Lewis is on his way. Matthew Armbruster.
Here.
Dave Pierce.
Here.
Danielle Woodward. Here. Julie Kaufman.
Yep.
Steve West.
Mhm.
Doris, and
Here.
myself.
Okay. Nobody here for community comments? Let's go move forward then into reports and presentations. And let's do a Sherman Park update.
Yeah, so we should have a install or delivery date by the end of this week. And then from there, we will be able to coordinate with Charlie on taking stuff out and have a timeline of install. So that'll be we're ahead of schedule on that, so that's a great thing. The shelter there is gonna take a little bit longer. We're right on that timeline of Labor Day for the shelter. So it's hit or miss if he can get in and get a crew there to get that installed.
Who's doing it?
Bernanke, or Schneider.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's two different vendors with it, and that he works with, so the Bernanke and the Schneider's using another vendor for
Okay.
the, but he's trying so hard to get that. I think it'll be fine. My gut's telling me it's all gonna be done. So we're in good shape for Sherman. Yeah, we're in good shape. There's been a couple of the neighbors, when I've gone over a few times, park's been trashed, but I've gotten to know enough neighbors over there now, we call on anybody and they're over there, they clean it up, so that's a win. We have those relationships that we're building, and they're cleaning it up, so we want them to own that and keep an eye on that, so that's good. What's the next thing?
What about the paving of the, I guess it's the,
So,
Ally?
yeah, what's the plan on that?
so that's a Charlie question, but he wasn't setting a date for that stuff until he knew the date for the equipment, cause he wants to just do it all together at the same time, so when he pulls up and starts leveling stuff for the playground equipment to come in, he's just gonna do it all within that same time frame. So we should have a time frame better to know the time frame once we have the install date.
And that'll be the same thing for the walkway between the two streets?
Yep, they're gonna do it all at the same, pretty much a whole week, basically, to get it done.
Yeah, I don't know anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if they don't put the alley paving off until they do both of those streets.
Right.
Okay.
Rather, that's just my guess, because the alley is a part of those streets and connects.
It would make sense to
And
me.
that's ultimately how it's gonna get funded, is by
I agree.
the street levy, so I think, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if they say, let's just hold off till whenever those streets are scheduled to be paved, but I don't know that.
I trust Charlie. I mean, we're working pretty close together and getting timelines down, and, I'm a scheduler. I have to know what's going on when. So once I know that, I will just keep people accountable to make sure that it happens, because that's just how I'm wired.
Have you gotten any feedback about the cameras or the lighting? in the
Yeah, we're gonna
place?
talk about that later in old business down at the bottom. So,
Do you know if there's any earth that has to be moved for install of any of this?
no, it's just all basic leveling, making sure that it's flat, where current equipment and stuff is. We're gonna clean that up and make it, I'm not, Charlie and his guys are gonna do that, to make sure that it's level and ready for the equipment to come in. There's not a whole lot of moving of earth.
I would think the sod has to be removed,
Yes.
The what?
the sod.
Yep.
The grass.
Oh, well, plus the pavement.
And they're gonna do it all at the
Mhm.
same time, so. Hopefully once I have that timetable, I hope I'm emailing that to you on Monday, a week from today. That'd be beautiful. Goldman, park equipment, I did meet with, some of the families that are part of the handicap baseball team. They are precious. And talked about things to think about when planning that process. So the rubber underneath, the park equipment, that's a big deal. So Jason's on that. He's gonna create, like he did with Sherman, some options that we can then pick from. And he was hoping to have that today, but he didn't get it today. So this week, I should have that, those initial plans, and I'm just gonna email them to you guys, just to take a look at, and get some ideas, questions, things like that. I'm excited about that whole thing, because we did incorporate some of the handicap equipment, what that looks like, and it was neat to learn that process, because you don't think about swings, or you don't think about, what's the thing that goes in a circle? Merry-go-round. They have a merry-go-round for wheelchairs.
Right.
And one side of it's like a seat for someone that's not in a wheelchair, and the other side's capable for wheelchairs, and I just thought that was just really cool. But the biggest expense for that's gonna be that plastic flooring. So he's kind of gonna try to do the best he can with that, but, yeah. So that's pretty much where we're at. As far as exercise equipment, that would be I know Julie wanted to talk about that,
Right.
through that, so if you wanna talk through that.
Yeah, I have some questions for us before we go forward. The information that you gave me with the specific vendors that
Yeah.
we already have, I looked them up and looked the ones that were on there, listed what they had. A lot of it for their fitness equipment indoor. You know, it was like indoor, it was like, not all, the old stuff, and I thought, well, that's not gonna work. But there were 3 that had quite a bit of stuff.
Okay.
Not to mention other things. But before I go any farther, I think we need to take a look at, what's the budget? I don't wanna go into this and, because what they're showing, and even Burke has halfway decent stuff on this, they're showing setups that are anywhere from $50,000 to $250,000. The people have already got them, and it's, normal communities, it's not, just the real expensive communities, it's just regular communities. So I think we need to set up a budget, or at least an up to, and then, I can take a look and say, this is way out of line, this isn't gonna work, or, but I think that needs to be considered in what is our budget for this, because I don't know. Do we have a plan on that?
I mean,
Or any
when
thoughts?
When I talked with Jason for the equipment, I said that 220 that we did with Sherman, let's try to stay within that arena, because we came under that by all means. So if we even come in, that's just my opinion, but you guys decide.
So I think we need to look at that general ledger account to see what the balance is and the cash balances in it, minus the commitments that we have made to Sherman to see what the balance is.
And what is the balance? Don't we have an idea now?
No, I don't.
I thought we had that from the other day, that when you were, adding that all up, when we were down in the,
Well, I don't have it on the top of my head.
Oh, okay.
I don't have it with me.
but we're well under our numbers.
Well, yes. Well, what do you mean by well
I
under
mean,
our
we had
numbers?
1.8 or something like that.
To start,
1.5.
Yeah.
and it got down to $1.2 million after 250,000 at 250 at for the restrooms. See, that's,
It was like 236 for
Yeah,
the
I'm
restrooms.
like
Yeah.
230
And
something.
then,
I mean, that's why we need the data, Julie. We don't have the data.
Mhm.
So you
I
push-
can have that for you tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I just don't have the data handy. I don't recall it, that's all.
Okay.
Once we do the spend on Sherman, I'll get a ledger of that.
Yeah, we need an accounting for that.
Well, I think, that's the first question, because, if we don't have a budget for this, or if you say, your budget's $10,000, well, that makes a big difference.
I'm pretty confident saying that it could, for the exercise equipment, could be at least 50.
Yeah,
Okay.
Pretty confident in saying that.
There's quite a bit of things that I think you can get, well, I think you can make it look nice for that. Well, that was my first question. Then
Yeah.
I'll go proceeding, looking at what is available up around that, or under.
it'd be interesting to see if, with that workout equipment, if they have some that are adaptable for those that are handicapped.
There's all kinds of things.
Yeah,
I mean, all of that is in there.
that'd be cool.
All of that is in there. The other questions that I have is, like a style, because, my thinking was that it was a 13 and up kind of a attraction for parks, because we have the 0 to 12 playground equipment. So this is something for the 13 and ups to do. So, but the style, I mean, they have like, you see it on, because a lot of this is like the Ninja Warrior kind of equipment, which to me is like a high-level fitness. I'm guessing that most of us here probably couldn't run a Ninja Warrior course. So we would immediately
Test it.
be eliminated. Yeah, Steve probably did. Danielle could probably do it. She's a, oh, well, never mind. But I mean, I guess I was kind of wanted to take a look. I mean, my thinking is that wasn't really the way we were headed, to look at that stuff, but more along the lines of what the average adult,
Yeah,
older person could do. And it ranges, you can take any piece of equipment and adapt it to any level, but I was not looking at the Ninja Warrior kind of thing. If we're all on the same page there, then I'll go forward. Okay, that was the first thing I had. And then, these are just two things that I've been thinking about. Where to put this? And I'm thinking not just Goldman, but I'm thinking of every park here in Middletown, you know, because this is gonna be a big deal. We're not gonna have fitness equipment everywhere in every park. So where is it the best place for the city to have this? You know, is it Goldman? Maybe it is, I don't know, I'm just thinking ahead. What makes, you know, I'm certainly an advocate for this. I want this to happen somewhere, but I want it to happen in the right place. And I'm not exactly sure. I was thinking like exposure, you know, where could you see it, but where isn't like super hot or super, like people peering at you, or, you know, what makes the most sense that would get used? People would see it, it's not hidden. That was my fear at Sherman, that nobody would know it was there because it's such a hidden park. That, you know, you have to have a reason to go to Sherman. You don't just drive by and see it. So where, you know, is it Goldman? I don't know if that is it. You know, is there another place? But I guess I just want us to think about that a little bit. And like for this next month, when you're driving around the city and you're looking around, and it doesn't take up a huge amount, and it's not going to take up. I mean, you can do it in the space that's this room here. So what park is the best park for this?
I think it's Goldman, or, I mean, only because I'm a baseball mom. If my kid's playing or having baseball practice, and I don't have to sit there through the whole practice to watch them practice necessarily, I could be on that, doing that.
Or the siblings too,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Well, that's what, but I want, you know, that is one thought. But, you know, like all thoughts, I guess I just want everybody to think about it. And as you drive around, you know, take a look at all the parks and think about where would this best suit all Middletonians.
And I
Or
think-
Smith.
And I think any park with a walking path is attracting people that are wanting to exercise.
Exercise.
Well,
and
even
be
like
healthy.
Jayco, I mean, you look at Jayco, you never drive by Jayco, you know, but the top order, and you don't see people walking. What's the same thing with Smith?
Yeah.
And now Sunset, I mean, people are walking.
So I think that would be.
I mean, it's so-
Sunset would be good too.
Yeah.
Smith.
So, I mean, but all of it, that's what I'm
Soccer
thinking,
moms,
cause
Yeah.
it's probably a one-shot deal for us. So I really want us to take some time to think about all of it and think about, cause, you know, I even thought about, you know, South Main when I was driving by, it's got access on both sides, but I don't know, what makes the most sense? And I'll continue to look for that, but those were some thoughts that I had when I was driving around and looking at different parks, and I thought, that's it,
No, that's good. That's
Good.
right.
yeah.
Do you plan on clustering them all together and having like a station type thing, or like along the walking path, or have you thought?
Well, we can do either or on that. We can, you know, you can make it like that. It would just be securing it, you know, planning it in something that would hold it. I mean, you could make it like that. You know, I was looking at this where you would have one, you know, it might be easier to secure it to the concrete or whatever, or, you know, I like the idea of a fitness trail thing, so, but
I
it
do
doesn't
too.
matter to me however we do it. It would matter, cause some of these have like a set of like 6 things in one, you know, which would eliminate it, but if we wanted to do stations, that can be done.
I like the idea of a trail, along the trail, only because I'm not trying to like watch somebody else work on a piece of equipment across from me necessarily, just because I'm weird that way. But,
And you're getting time in between stations
Yeah,
to walk
to
in.
walk.
You can do it like that, and it would advocate for the walking, but again, you wouldn't know it's there unless you knew it was there. That's the other, I mean, all of this is possible, and I think all of it is fabulous, and I'm loving all of this. These are things to consider. So, you know, again, because this is gonna be a one-time deal, let's give a lot of thought to it. I'll come back with the different things that I see, including, you know, they have handicap, all this kind of stuff. And not all of it is designed for that. There will obviously be some, because some of these are just specific bars that are set up for, you know, you can either lean in and do a push-up or do a pull-up, or, do different things into that. And depending on your level, you can do obviously easier or more difficult, exercise type of thing on it. So, but just give some thought to that. There isn't anything I don't like, so, thanks.
I lean towards an environment that we know there'll be cameras or eyes on that equipment.
Good point,
Mhm.
good
I lean
point.
in that direction, which is, as much as I think Smith Park is an ultimate location for something like this because of the space, it is unrealistic to think you can get eyes throughout Smith Park. You can't get cameras on everything throughout Smith Park. But if you did it at Smith Park, you would want it in one location, but if you wanna spread it out, you gotta think about a park where cameras can capture most of that. Cause I could see that equipment being primed for being defaced or damaged.
Well, I'm gonna guess that like on some of the bars, spray paint or whatever like that, I'm looking at, the stuff I'm looking at has the fewest amount of anything that you could break off or, piece out, or, just a normal person working on it wouldn't tear it up. Not very complicated machine. Some of it is a machine and does work other things, but it's simple, it's not. Those other ones, I'm just eliminating those right away, cause I just think they're not gonna work for Middletown, but, yeah, but all those things, I think those are all good questions, and I think they have to be, answered and thought out, about what we wanna do with this. But I'll have a couple of different thoughts on that for our next meeting and different equipment. Thanks.
Thanks.
So, before we get off of Goldman, can we go then to our minutes from our last meeting on May 13th and look at the Goldman Park update and the assigned items? And could you go through those and provide any update that you're aware of?
Sure.
And if we've got some dates for which we expect to know any of this, can you let us know what those might be?
Yep.
I mean, you just talked about the new playground equipment.
I should have a plan by the end of this week,
Yeah,
if not tomorrow. The canopy, that's a Steve Lewis question.
yeah.
Fitzgerald was supposed to get back to me. I went directly to the tree trimmer. I'll call Charlie and I'll send everybody an email out because I wanna be careful. I think we're at 9,000, but let me get that number. And I've been pestering my tree trimmer for it, and I should have called Charlie, so that's my fault.
The repair of the basketball court, Charlie did get quotes on that. I don't have those with me. The the shelter up, tables and grill, that stuff's being included in
Right.
the quote that Jason's working on, so I should have all of that too. The install of the walking track,
I'm waiting to meet Greg out there next week. He couldn't do it this week, so I can get a better idea of what his thoughts are. I will say that to me, now that I guess we were all educated, that parcel of land that goes to the west of the back parking lot towards the fire station is not city property. I think it really shortens a walking path. My concern now is where do we take it to the west side of the park without it just simply being in the parking lot? Because the ball fields there are right up against the parking lot, especially with that big maple tree there. Then you start getting into Dreamcatcher. So I would hope that everyone would be open to the fact that if we go that direction, I don't see how a lot of that can be over on the west side, other than in the parking lot.
Or the driveway.
Or the driveway, thank you, Dave.
Because it's a couple of those diamonds are up against that
So
driveway.
it's very tight.
Yeah.
It's very tight, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I'm really perplexed, not to get overdone by this, but if you're walking along with where Roosevelt is there a need for a guardrail? And I only say that because like at John 23rd, coming down University, I remember when we put the new equipment in there and I was helping Brenda, we were doing all, and it was like, city came in pretty quick and said, you guys gotta get a guardrail up there. That makes a lot, I mean, that obviously. So with that said, my hope would be, once I get great, is just simply to try and get hooked up with Charlie's, and again, I need to talk to him about a couple different things. But his gentleman who would be doing the work over at Sherman, and lump that together to get us a price. Sorry to ramble on.
Can I ask a favor for the next meeting? Can we get something like this
Yeah.
for Goldman?
Do you have a master plan?
No, I know, but I like one piece.
Okay,
You can write on it.
you can Google it. That's what I've done, just Google it and print it.
I could email it to you too.
But that's fine.
I'll find it.
New park sign, that's already up, right? I'm just gonna kinda pick this up. Repair the existing building on Highland Street. I'm still lost on that one, I'm just gonna say,
It's not in bad shape. The worst thing about that building is the bathrooms, in my opinion. I walked over there with Charlie and Greg.
I know,
Greg wants to put inside that building another batting cage.
I get it.
It's not in bad shape.
I guess what I'm asking is, when do we get 3 bids and when don't we get 3 bids?
When we know what work needs to be done on that, and even Greg didn't seem to think that it was in bad shape.
Well, I mean, what's the threshold? What's the city's threshold when we spend money?
It's if you use a state-approved contractor
You can
versus
take it
not.
right then, sorry.
Mhm.
Well, but none of these guys are gonna be state
No.
approved, because they're all local guys.
It's
I
something.
mean, I did forget that, Steve, I apologize about that, but, yeah, and I'm not trying, I don't know.
So the question is what do you want done to the building? And if you want the bathrooms done, then let's start the bidding process.
That's been defined.
I was gonna
It's
say, did
largely
we put
been
it up to
defined
it?
on what the building needs, right?
Well, according to who? Charlie, the city, Greg,
Right,
Midway, who's made those decisions?
I don't know.
Right, so I'm happy to look into that, I'll put a footnote, I'm not here to rail against it, I'm not at all. But as we keep going with this, we're going to keep spending money and the money will get tight. And, you know, the way it was approached to me was not really, I didn't really appreciate it a whole lot by getting a simple phone call and saying, well, we gotta pull $76,000 from you guys for this. It's like, okay, how many more times is that going to happen? So, I'll leave it at that.
And I'll just throw this out there too. I feel comfortable saying, because I walked over there with Greg and Charlie, the main focus right now should be that park equipment. And then from there, talk through the building. If there's other updates with the building that need to be done, stress over it.
Well, I need to ask Greg, when's the season end? And then, obviously, that's what their thought, I'm guessing that's their thought process, is that when the season ends, they would then start to delve into that building.
Yeah, yep.
And I would say, at that point, park board would make the recommendation on what needs done to that building.
Mhm.
And then you put it out to bid if you wanna use local guy, like 3 local guys, and then go from there.
Mhm.
I mean, it's coming out of this account, so
Mhm.
it would be park board's
I get
decision.
it, right, well, yeah, I would hope.
Yeah.
And I don't wanna ruffle his feathers, I don't wanna ruffle Greg's feathers at all, I don't wanna ruffle any of this guy's feathers, that's not the
Right,
deal.
right.
But I think there gets an energy going, and there gets a momentum, but we're being checked and balanced on everything else, and, you know.
I
we do-
didn't feel when I met with him and Charlie that he was overly pressed about thinking the building needed done right now.
Well, he's
So-
trying to run his program. this
Right.
year, so-
Yeah, yeah.
He's
I get it.
in the thick
Yeah.
of the baseball season.
So I guess the question that I think that Steve, the question I have based on Steve's question is, if the building costs $80,000 to fix, but it's broken down into bathroom contractor, roofing contractor, electrical contractor, do those individual contracts, does the whole project at 80,000 get approved because it exceeds a threshold? What if the individual components of that are all under the $25,000 level? What if all the individual contractors' works are all under 25 because you're gonna hire
They're
them
separate.
separately?
Right.
Yeah.
Good point.
So we just raised that threshold, so,
100?
yeah, I would say, I mean, I don't wanna speak on law's behalf, but I would think they would just go into contract. If you go the bidding route or state approved, when all those bids come back, they could just go,
Yep.
straight into a PO on it.
So they would be looked at individually,
Mhm.
is what you're, I think what you're saying there.
Well, even if a couple were lumped together, it would still be under a threshold, so,
Okay,
yeah, so you should be okay. I mean, we did that to be a bit more flexible, because 25K, you can't do
Can't do much with that,
anything.
can you?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
thanks for
So
that clarity.
This should be good.
Cause if I left it at the house, but I typically have it with me, I have that bid from DeVore. That's the GC, then he has it broken down.
What was his, total on that?
I thought it was about 76.
Right,
76?
that's what I recall.
Yeah.
So any of these that have Charlie's name next to it, I'm just gonna send him an email and ask for an update on all of that, so we have that in writing so that everyone knows. Cause there's not a whole lot I can report on without getting a report from him, so, and I can email that? Do you want me to email it? Can I do that?
That'd be fine.
Sure.
You could forward his response.
Yeah, okay. As far as bleachers, I know that, I don't know if they've come in, all of them have come in yet, but they have been ordered. Trash receptacles, benches, tables, all that's being lumped in, to Jason's quote. Lights at the baseball diamond at Goldman, so I thought Greg was gonna want lights there, and he said he was fine with not having lights there, that he would rather see them at Rathman
I'm not surprised.
turn back on, cause he said that used to be the thing back in the day, the kids liked going to Smith Park, Rathman Park,
It's huge.
and play under the lights, like that was the
Yeah,
thing, so
it's huge.
if we're gonna invest in lights there.
Yes.
Versus, which, I was pleasantly surprised with that.
I think it's
so.
a deeper, it's a longer diamond and accommodates the older kids.
Mhm.
And it might be fun to play someplace different too.
Right.
It's
They
like
said
playing
maybe-
away as opposed to playing home, kind of a cool thing.
Mhm. So I mean, I would like to just put it out there that maybe as a board decide to do that and get bids on lights for Rathman.
I think that's
Well,
a good idea.
yeah, our guidance was, talk to Greg about where would he prefer to have lights, Goldman or Rathman?
Mhm.
So if it's Rathman, then let's get the lighting contractor to put the bid in on Rathman Park.
And I'll start that process.
I just know what playing under the lights at Jayco mean for the soccer program,
Yeah.
and it is like the ultimate
Big
for
deal.
those kids, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
My husband still remembers the game you gotta play at Rathman under the lights.
And you're
He's
right.
70 years old, so.
You're right, that's a
And
huge
And those are the
deal.
kind of memories we want kids
Exactly.
to recreate, right?
Mhm.
So, I mean, I thought I was pleasantly surprised about that. Let's see.
Did we
Engage-
skip the repaving, striping and all that?
Well, I said anything with Charlie's name next to it, I'm gonna get an update email from him with all of it and just email everybody that update.
Okay,
Engaging the neighborhood with Goldman, Danielle and I need to still get together, to officially set a date, we can set that now.
You wanna do it next meeting?
Yeah.
July 8th?
Invite him to the next meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe we could do it downstairs if it's open.
I think a lot of people will show up.
I think it's important to do that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the July 8th meeting, and set that in the chambers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool. That all on Goldman?
Yeah.
Cool. When you go on,
Steve, you wanna take over?
No, go ahead, Dave.
Old
Please.
business, let's talk about the cameras.
so this has been an adventure. So, met with IT and police department together. In this
Wow.
room, got them, and they were getting along, created a plan. Today, I got to watch a video with one vendor, with everybody, to provide 7 cameras in 7 parks. It is doable.
Who's gonna provide it?
We don't know yet, but one of the vendors, we're checking multiple vendors to get best pricing and best, but the one today, was a bit of pricey, but they provide everything, install and everything, so it was very attractive.
What brand was it, do you know, was it Flock?
Flock, yeah,
okay,
it was
good.
Flock.
Now, there are some people that are advocating for the condors.
Yes,
We need them to record.
yes, yep, we talked through that. It took,
Okay.
record 30 days worth.
Okay.
And then if an incident happened, my understanding is that they can put a hold on it,
Mhm.
to keep that
Okay,
pending.
good,
So,
because they do make some that are just PTZ with no record, and
no, these would be recorded,
it's like
yeah,
3 or 4K per
Yep.
year per camera.
yep.
So we
So-
do have some, if you potentially need funding, Commissioner Dixon said they'd be willing to take a look at it.
That would be amazing.
So our idea was for police as a whole, you know, including parks, come up with how many flock systems they want.
We came up with 7.
Parks and, you know, intersections, whatever, wherever they wanted them, and come up with that whole number, so if it's 20 cameras, you know, 60K, 70K a year, call it 70K or 75K a year, we could go to Butler County and say, Don, remember when you said financially you'd help? And
I
just
think
go,
we're
"Hey."
there, because I have a quote
Okay.
I can get you, or.
Is
whoever.
that just for parks, or would they say 7 period?
So that's 7, including Governor's Square area downtown
Okay.
as well,
So that's one of the 7.
one of the 7, yes.
Okay.
What
So
are the
it was,
7?
It's Sherman Park, Goldman Park, Damon Park, Douglas Park, sorry.
Smith and Jaco.
Jaco and
And
Smith.
Lefferson.
And Lefferson, and then I guess it would have been, Governor's Square as well, so that's 8, right?
So not Sunset.
Yeah, I would say Sunset would be added to that too.
That
Yeah,
makes
so that
8.
makes, yeah,
Mhm.
so,
Yeah, because they asked me that, when I took the Alta Fiber guys out, we went to
So-
Sunset as well.
to get all of those, not including Sunset, it's approximately 25,000 to first initial investment. Yearly after that, it's about 18,000 to keep up with that yearly for all the parks, so.
Is that
The
what all the
question-
most cities are doing?
So
That's
the,
just built into a budget?
They're doing,
Just accommodating
whether it's a
something.
flock system or some other camera system, most cities are doing it.
So it's
Yeah.
So
just
the
part of the
question-
budget,
yeah.
somewhere, in
so
some
that's
budget.
that's the
Mhm.
question, is whose budget
Right,
is it coming from
It's Don's.
yearly? And then where do we pull that money from?
I understand all
To
that.
keep
I
up.
was just wondering what other, if it was, this is just common practice in
that's
other
pretty
cities.
common.
So it's just
So-
something you have to fund somewhere.
That's something that we've talked about even
Creating its own?
before Dawn had made that statement, is that, for next year's budget, there would just be, for example, if there was an increase in the police fund, or if there was a separate line item in the general fund for that kind of thing, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Cause when our budget's 41 million a year, what's 60K a year?
Right, and it's a safety
70K a
thing,
year,
yeah.
80K a year, like, it's not,
Okay, so it could potentially be,
but our goal is, my recommendation is, if the police are, I don't want people to approach this and say, okay, here is like the bare minimum number of cameras. I would make a recommendation to say, all right, in a perfect scenario, how many would you have, period, within Middletown? Parks, major intersections, entries and exits,
and then approach it that way.
and then say, okay, where do you think a reasonable amount, to increase, from, or I should say to decrease from the perfect world scenario? That's what we approach
So
the
is that-
commissioner with.
So my conversation is strictly parks. Anything
Mhm.
outside of that, we would have to leave whoever's in charge of that.
Yeah, from the.
And then have that-
police, Yeah.
And so I'll just throw that back at police and say, hey,
Tell them like,
This is what
we're
was
willing to
recommended.
meet with Dawn and have them bring a checkbook, but we wanna make sure that, you know, cause there's, in my opinion, the square mileage of this city and the density and the fact that East End is gonna have another potentially 6,000 to 8,000 people out there, I think we should even put Flock out that way. So if Warwick or Nelson or any of them want, they can reach out, but I would aim for a whole number complete for the city, cause I think a city this size, you could easily have 15 to 20 in the city, you know?
Oh, yeah,
So,
okay.
Are these cameras, like, are the companies able to do things, obviously, like what we talked about going with the parks, we needed them to do a variety of things, but an intersection wouldn't need that, so I'm sure that they can accommodate, you know, like, stationaries, as well as one that would do moving.
All of these go in a
Yeah.
circle.
they can all pan, tilt, zoom.
And
Some of the
it's super clear.
systems, like, for example, like if you were, in theory, if you were putting a flock camera at the main entrance to Smith Park, that one could also incorporate a license plate reader, and would automatically say like whose car that is going in, like say at midnight, right? Same with intersections, so there are already a couple systems in the city, so they kinda know, like, hey, there's a stolen car passing by such and such, but depending, they make different types, they even make some that have like gunshot detection, which is no longer recommended by a lot of cities that have purchased
Right.
it, they've
Understood.
disabled that, but, yeah, you can do a lot with them,
Okay.
you know. And the other thing is, like, especially, you know, for example, with Sherman Park, if somebody wakes up in the morning, or a couple days later, you notice like, hey, there's somebody, you know, destroyed this, or, you know, tagged this, you know, you can call down the city building and say, hey, you know, have Flock take a look at the camera footage, you know, whatever time period, and then they can save that for prosecution, so.
So personnel from Flock, actually,
We would have access to it too.
They'll have access to it as well, so.
Everyone has a login that they can get on.
Mhm. But Flock's gonna do all the data warehousing, which is nice,
Wow,
so,
that is great.
yeah.
So I would think from our parks, we would wanna lay out all of our parks and determine which ones, not just now, but into the future, do we think we want cameras at? And what assets in that park, or where in that park do we wanna have effective eyes
So that's what,
on? Go ahead.
so that's what I'm doing Thursday at 2:00 with engineering and Duke and IT is going to figure that out. Which poles does the city own versus Duke? Because it'll be easier if the city owns it, because Duke it takes longer. So determining that, the best location in each park.
Or locations.
Location, right, right.
Yeah, could be-
Because some that there's blind spots and things like that,
Yes.
yeah. Not to
And
interrupt
what,
you, sorry.
and what assets do we want eyes on in those parks?
Mhm,
Because I think putting eyes on assets ought to be a high priority.
mhm,
Mhm.
mhm. So that's, to answer your question, that's happening Thursday at 2:00 this week. And
I
I'll
wouldn't be
take,
surprised if it didn't take months to figure out, or weeks to figure out.
So we're looking at those 7, 8 parks
Well, no,
primarily.
To Steve's recommendation, I think
Looking
it's
at all of
right.
them.
You should evaluate all of them and
Mhm.
make a decision now.
Okay, great,
Mhm.
I agree.
mhm,
Why come up short?
mhm. Especially if Dixon's
Ask for
gonna
more.
help. Mhm,
Ask for what you need.
That's
mhm.
right.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
good deal.
And maybe part of that ask is, yes, it's 25, just using a number, 25,000 initially to get it and 18,000 a year, maybe we say, okay, so for the next 8 years,
Mhm.
X amount of dollars to do that, let's ask. I mean, all they can say is no, or how about this instead, or,
Right,
Shoot for the moon.
right. Worst thing they can say is no.
right.
So are these cameras, so is this being monitored by humans 24/7?
So it's recorded
Okay.
24/7.
So there's equipment that does not need manpower or have anyone there, men and
Right.
women, sorry,
Mhm.
to be there, that it's just recording.
Correct. And then if an incident happens, it's being recorded, we
Then
can go
who
back.
in your mind is going to go back and look at that footage if
Police.
so? Okay.
Police.
And yet, the initial idea is that, I mean, depending on how many cameras we end up with, but the initial idea, at least from discussions with, some of the police staff, is that there would be some monitoring as well, like dispatch would have it up, you know, live feed as well. So, yeah, so it's gonna be a mix, but it's always gonna record. And then if they go back and review it, if somebody calls and says, hey, you know, somebody destroyed this, they go back and they see it, then I think Flock, technically under that Flock contract, I think they do the redaction as well, so.
Now, Flock did say today, cause I asked him timetable wise, cause I'm all about scheduling and stuff.
Mhm.
They said they're about 5 months out. So if we made a decision, I mean, that's putting it in September, October.
And how tough are these cameras when it comes to a slingshot, a pellet gun, a rock?
That, I don't know, I didn't ask that.
Okay.
I
They
mean,
do have a
they're-
warranty on them, but.
They're the best in the industry, so,
Yeah, and they're encased too, aren't they?
Mhm.
Yeah, they're encased, so they can't
Yeah.
get tapped.
they're supposed to be pretty dang tough. I mean, Baltimore has them, Detroit has them, so, you know.
So, Steve, in your conversation with Don Dixon, skip down one item, we've got, talking about lights moving in the parks. Did that come up in the conversation as well?
No, this was strictly from the safety town hall,
Okay.
looking at what are the quick ways of, you know, effectively increasing non-traditional public safety measures. So, for example, you know, flock cameras, that's kind of like the easy, low-hanging fruit. But we'd be willing to meet with him and say, hey, here's some additional things, and then kind of get a, read his temperature on
Lights.
funding and all of those things, yeah.
So were you here our last meeting when we had Nelson and
Mhm.
Warwick, and that talked about the importance, how they thought lights in some of our parks would be a real
Yeah.
asset and deter? Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
So do you think we ought to go down the path with the lights, the way we're going down the path with the cameras?
I mean, I would, me personally, I don't mind asking for the moon, you know, meeting with them. And, you know, if you've talked to the lighting contractor, say, hey, can you throw a quote together for, you know, some of these other parks?
And I think with lighting, for me, I was waiting for that tour of the parks for the cameras, with the
Mhm.
engineers, to kind of say, where does it make sense to have lights? And then I could take that to the lighting people and bring them in and say, here's where it makes sense. Maybe there's already standing lights, like at Sherman's already got lights there, but we want to add
2 more. at
2 more,
least.
you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And
2
so
more corners.
I want more knowledge before I try to have a conversation with the lights people, of what the engineers are saying. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So Thursday, I hope to have more ammo to call the lighting places and say, hey,
Mhm.
can you come look at this and get, I mean, I already know that there's state contracting lighting companies.
I'm sure.
I've met a ton of them at the Parks and Rec conference,
Okay.
so, that sounds like what
Yep.
you guys want me to do, is after I talk with engineering and stuff, then create a plan for each park, or are there like a top 3 parks you want me to look at and get pricing?
My own opinion is we need a global strategy for cameras and lights in our parks.
Okay.
So I would not pick and choose. I would just say, look at your
Okay.
parks and figure out
So when we go
Which
to
one?
each park, I will say, so that's the camera plan,
what's
what's
the
the
lighting
lighting
plan.
plan, and then go
Mhm.
from there.
We could always back off of that, but
Mhm.
I think it's good to have a global view,
Yeah, if we're already there looking.
comprehensive.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay. Cool.
This could really move us ahead as a community,
Mhm.
big time, in a lot of
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah.
Well, and you have to think too, most of these parks are cut through, whether it's foot traffic or vehicle traffic or bike traffic. So there could be a crime committed off camera at a home but the police have a description. And if somebody's running through a park or
Mhm.
driving through a park, I mean, when we had that double homicide on my street, that's the first thing they did was, door knock every house, who has cameras,
Mhm.
so it goes beyond even just creating
That
safe
site,
parks. Mm-hmm,
That bounded
Mhm.
site,
yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah.
Good point. Memorial Day?
Yeah, I just wanted to give it was an awesome parade. It was probably the biggest I've seen since I've been doing them for 9 years this year, so, the whole route was packed. And I have not seen that like that. I mean, you see sections of it packed,
Mhm.
but this year, for some reason, the entire thing was just packed full of people, and that was just really good to see. For the most part, people behaved. Some people don't listen to the don't throw candy thing. One group I heard
Yeah.
threw bouncy balls,
Yeah.
like the little bouncy balls, and I'm like, why would you do that? Cause it's gonna bounce back, kids are gonna go in the street. But I say it till I'm blue in the face, nobody listens, so, I don't wanna say nobody, but some don't listen.
I kinda felt bad I wasn't throwing candy. There were
Well,
so many people throwing candy.
I know,
The kids were like looking at me, I'm like, oh, sorry.
you can hand.
Throw money instead.
Yeah.
We were handing out like little flags, but ran out. I mean, there was just so many people.
So many people.
Yeah.
We had a church that brought 2,500 book bags for their VBS, and they passed out all of them by the time they got down to, Yankee. They were out
Mhm.
completely. So, and they missed kids, like, they were like, here, this is for your family, so that just blows my mind. So, that's the only update I have on that, just the ceremony at the, memorial, we have a big Memorial Day ceremony, that went really well. Our vocalist was, had a family emergency, so my dad and I sang, which was very memorable. The weather was the greatest, so we couldn't have a flag jump in like we normally do, but it was fine. That's it on that.
Okay. New business? Park priorities after Sherman and Goldman?
Yep, so what are they? I mean, where do you guys want us to tackle next? Is there any
I had
forethought?
one thing on that. So there's, and I actually support this, so I don't blame people, but it's gaining a lot of momentum, the splash pad at Douglas. So I've spoken with some of the park maintenance, and, engineering and stuff, and they all agree that, the splash pad design, even the one at Smith, for example, it's not the best design, and in order to fix Douglas, you would essentially have to cut up most of the concrete to get to those shallow pipes, replace it, and you might be in the same situation a year or two from now. But I think at Douglas, like 80% of that splash pad is broken. So, there are some ideas, instead of repairing it, looking at there's some more modern designs which are easier to maintain, called like sprinkler parks, for example. So our recommendation to staff last meeting was, can we start getting quotes on this? So I know it's not gonna happen this summer, but next summer, maybe Douglas will have, because when that was fully functioning, it was packed every summer. So my thoughts on this are, let's get some quotes. Let's see, I personally think the sprinkler pad would be a little bit better. But let's get some quotes, let's see what it is. And I've mentioned it before to some of city council saying, hey, I don't feel all that money should come out of this fund, right? But I wanted to kind of check with you guys and see, I have no idea what these quotes are gonna come back as, but would you potentially be interested in throwing a little bit of money that way towards that project?
Well, I'll open it up.
When was the last time you talked to the maintenance guys?
The swing set, ribbon cutting day.
So this is, I know the splash pads are here. So they opened up the bathrooms and within 24 hours, they were down there repairing the bathroom. Someone literally tore a toilet out of the floor. So now they've shut down the bathrooms for the rest of the season. Well, I didn't even know the season had started yet, but whatever.
Is this Douglas?
Douglas.
They were open on Friday night until 8 o'clock, and then they locked them. They have porta johns there now.
So, I know it's not gonna go away, and I've been kinda talking about it for like 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, and apparently Tadish wanted to know our opinion, but Steve, I go to you, for the information. If we do something, if we give money, I want the most simplistic, unbreakable, freaking splash pad you can put in there.
I agree.
And if that means water shoots up out of the ground, 5 little squirts here or there, then that's it. Because they also had to go back over to Sunset Park and get graffiti off the stuff, off some of the equipment this past weekend.
Mhm.
And it just get to a point where as much good as you wanna do and you wanna keep going forward, I think you just have to pull back and just go, look, this is the best we're gonna do.
Mhm.
Until you guys start taking some ownership.
Right. And I forgot to bring this up, when Scott was at the meeting. My idea was, kind of thinking about this, is if you go to, like Smale Park in Cincinnati, and they kind of have the little, it's like a squirt pad almost,
Right.
right? Or even places like the Green that has it.
Right.
Yeah, those have been, especially the Green, that one's been around for
At least.
25 years at least.
15
Yeah.
years, something like that.
I know it was longer than that, but yeah.
And it's always worked, and it's still the original concrete, it's not like they've gone in there and
Right.
replaced it, so I'm like, what, maybe we.
Well, this
explore that
this
route.
falls into the next topic of mine, to interrupt you real quickly.
Mhm.
And they didn't like this at all, who I was speaking to. Who's maintaining this? Because, I'm sorry, that's what happened to this splash pad.
Yes.
Someone was sleeping on the job.
Yeah.
And that just is getting old, right? It just gets old.
Mhm.
And if we can't maintenance it and we can't winterize it correctly, now there's gotta be a foolproof way, but that's the other thing. And, promises and yes and all that. But really, staff needs to kinda come up, as we've been dealing with here for the last couple of weeks with the safety meeting and all that. What's your plan?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't mind giving the money, but
Mhm.
I know I can see a swing set a lot better than I can pipes, and I can
Right.
tell whether that's getting taken care of and that those aren't.
Yeah.
And all I hear from them is how shorthanded they are. Okay, I wanna believe you, you're shorthanded. Do we keep adding stuff?
Right.
Sorry, that's.
No, I know,
that's-
I
that's-
live in reality as much as you do, so because I've heard both. I've heard that it was just terrible design, but then I've heard from people in the industry that said, no, it wasn't winterized, period.
I spoke
So,
to the plumber who installed it, and put it in, and they did not winterize it correctly.
Yeah,
And-
so,
And being in the world, Matt's in that world, I mean, we winterize stuff every year,
All the time.
and, yeah, and you have got, it gets redundant. You do 50 properties
Yeah.
in 2 days of irrigation.
Yeah.
You get lackadaisical, and if you're not paying, you just can't run the system. You have to go watch each head come up and watch for the mist to start coming out and hear air.
Same thing with a swimming pool. You
Right.
ever bust a
Right.
line in your pool?
no, not
I
yet.
never have in mine.
Not yet.
I mean, not yet, but still, you wait.
So-
Right, yeah.
So again, I'm not trying to
Overwhelmed.
hammer on this,
Yeah.
but it's like, when does this end? And then when does, not penalties, but when do we just stop?
Yeah,
And the vandalism is what is the most irritating.
yeah, it seems to be going on more and more each summer.
And honestly, okay, we got a camera, boom. It maybe picks up an image. You have that image. Still vandalized,
Mhm.
still a mess, still gotta go repair it. I don't know, are we really gonna actually charge somebody for it? I don't know, so. Sorry,
Yeah.
I just,
No, I get it.
this one's really irritating to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then how long this has been going on as well. And that's a staff problem.
Years.
Yeah,
Years it's
that's a
been that way.
staff problem. Then they should be held accountable on that.
Yeah. My idea was, let's get some estimates, take a look at it and see, because I mean, I don't think, you and I kinda agree, I don't think you go crazy with any splash pad or any sprinkler pad or anything like that, but, yeah.
So do you want me to check with Scott Tadish to see where we're at on, I know he's working on quotes, I can kind of just say, hey, do you have an update, or what do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, one minute we're in the game, from the city manager asking me to call someone to go look at it. Then all of a sudden Tadish is asking us, well, what would you guys do? Am I correct in that?
He sent an email saying that he's working on getting quotes,
Okay, he did not want our recommendation?
and he wanted to communicate that with the
Okay.
Parks Board, so that we're in the
Okay.
know of that, yeah.
All right.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So, yeah, I mean, to me, that's been lingering, that's their problem.
Mhm.
I think it would be interesting to know from the plumber that installed it, who has gone to look at the repair, what would the repair cost? I would like to know the repair cost
Mhm.
versus the cost of something new, just to see.
And
what-
Steve and I talked about that a
What are
little
we,
bit
what are we
too.
talking about? Because we need to be prudent and we need to look at all
Right.
the options.
I
So-
asked to see both.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would
Okay,
like to see
thanks.
both come here.
Repair and
Yeah,
then
great.
some sort of, because the other thing is, if you have to tear up that splash pad,
And
the
he is,
demo cost is gonna be
he,
significant
to
too.
my understanding, Scott Tadish he's getting back
Both,
the
yeah.
both.
So I would ask Scott to come here and present both the
We-
repair.
yeah.
Scott needs to present the repair job.
We need to know in the next couple of weeks what's
Okay.
going on.
And the sprinkler park concept.
So
Scott needs to come to present those,
At the next
because,
meeting?
well, whenever he's ready.
Okay.
Not- We need an update next meeting.
Yeah, we gotta give
First.
that, whenever he's ready, will never happen.
Well, that sort of shines a light on things.
Yeah, that's what she
I have
says.
I have a question, the money that we have that we're spending, is it for capital or is it for repair?
That's, the other thing is, like, it depends on your perception. So, it's a little bit, so some of these things are repair, right?
Right.
Some of it's replacement,
Well, I understand that,
some of it's upgrade, and some of
Okay.
it's all three in one.
Yeah.
So, but
so nobody cares, bottom line.
it's, I mean, I can say this for the most part, when council will agree with you if you say, hey, here's all the new equipment we wanna put into a park, right? Sherman, they're like, yep, all right, cool. When it comes to something like that splash pad, that's just, it's kind of a little bit different, right? So you're not just putting in new equipment or.
What I was
something
thinking
out.
of is if it just comes down to a repair, and the decision is made to repair,
Yeah,
not
if-
replace, would that come out of this? That was what I was just asking,
Potentially, I
Okay.
mean, it really depends on,
Well, we're doing it at
you guys could
Goldman.
recommend.
We're doing it at Goldman.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
You guys could recommend, or you could say, let's just throw out a hypothetical number, to repair it, $150,000. I'm just making a
Right,
number.
right,
I have
right, right.
no idea what it would cost.
Right.
But if I go to council and say, okay, there's $150 to repair it, park board's willing to put this in if we are willing to agree to pay the rest. So it could be $50K, for
Okay.
example. So, I mean,
Small
I'm.
question, it's answered, I'm happy.
Me personally, I believe, that this topic has been lingering for so long, and, I don't wanna say it's been ignored, but for the amount of years that it's been going on, it's been ignored, or I should say it hasn't been a priority. I'm trying to pick my words a little better.
Yeah, better than the other, Steve? You're good, buddy. I get it. That's been ignored.
But,
So,
so I think it has enough steam to where council would support throwing money at it,
Okay.
period. So, but I just wanted to make you guys aware that if for some reason, it comes back and it's X amount of dollars to get it operational, and council for some reason is like, hey, we'll pay for X amount, but we think park board should pay for X amount.
Okay.
I just wanna make you aware that I'll fight it, but I'm just saying like,
We
you
sure,
know,
we get it.
you know, cause I wanna protect this money because we have 17,000 parks in this city and $2 million
Yeah.
is, you could spend, you know.
Well, and it goes towards good graces
Yeah.
as well, and we are hoping that there'll be more seed money, right? We're hoping.
That's kind of my idea is that, I, personally for me, I mean, there's a lot of people that are like, you know, staying up at Parks and Recreation, department. And yes, eventually, but I think, when you look at the yearly budget, there should be a significant amount of money set aside for parks, just because we have so many. I think we have too many in a sense to where there's a lot of just green space that's labeled a park. I mean, right by Matt and I, there's one, and
Yeah.
there's never been a kid playing on that stuff because it's infested with coyotes.
Right.
You wouldn't let your
Which
kid go
one?
down there. The one right by the old hospital.
Widow.
lot. Yeah, so, but if I say we should sell the lot and build a house there, I get persecuted, so, but nobody uses the park, so.
I think there's drainage issues and stuff that
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah, but, so I just wanna make you aware that that is gaining quite a bit of momentum, and staff is looking at getting some bids on it, so, just to give you a heads up.
So what did we say about Tadish? What do we say?
He is,
Please.
getting quotes. I'm gonna follow up with him and see if he can come and present what his findings are
Next
at the
meeting.
next meeting, yeah.
Thank you. Quotes for the repair and the sprinkler,
The comparison, yep.
the comparison.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I think
So,
the sprinklers are the best.
good.
I do, I
I'm
think the
anxious to
squirt
see what
ones-
those are like.
Yeah, they're cool.
They are cool.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you can put, I mean, it can be enormous, and the kids go crazy with it because they don't know when they're gonna shoot water.
Mhm.
And, you know, a big toy, I think, is good for, you know, a pool and things like that, but the squirt pads are cool.
Splash pads too, to my understanding from what Charlie was saying, is pieces break on them easily and it's hard to repair them.
And I think when they put these in, really, I mean, it was sort of like the first of splash pads, there weren't a lot around.
There were almost none around,
Yeah.
yeah. Who was it, Springboro that's putting in the next one in our area?
I believe so.
That's
But
what
now
I
that
heard.
one's insane, it's gonna,
Mhm.
how much was that
It's,
one?
it's like an aquatic center
It's
in a
like
sense.
1.2 or 2.2 million or something,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, but that's gonna be the main thing, so,
It's like Vegas.
yeah. If we're gonna build a Bellagio and a pool.
So here's what based on what I've heard in this last 15 minutes, which I agree with, when we talk about priorities after Sherman and Goldman, I think about it less about parks, more about experiences in the parks. And tonight, we've heard about the sprinkler pad or splash pad fix. We've heard about exercise equipment. And so what I would do is I would strip the exercise equipment piece out of Goldman and stand it on its own as an experience that we want to create. The question is, where do we create that experience in the park? And so maybe what we do is we take a quick pause in our next initiative, pause on the park focus, and focus more on this experience with the splash or sprinkler system and the exercise equipment being the two experiences that we will spend our time on next.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Are we,
Yeah.
and so we could think about what other experiences are we hearing about, are we getting feedback about, that might be interesting to spend some time on.
Well, I've had some people talk to me about a dog park. And I know it's been over and over, but I'm just tossing it out there. I don't think it necessarily takes a lot,
It does.
but
You have to test the ground. There's a company that does it that I've talked with about it. They come in, they have to test the ground. The ground has to have specific something in it and something else that's not in it in order for it to be state standard for a dog park. I mean, it's like insane. I had no idea.
So I think we ought to put that on the table, and if next meeting, be
Bring that-
prepared.
Be prepared
Be
to
prepared to
talk
talk
about
about,
it. Yeah,
yes.
that's fine, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we're here to solve for that tonight.
I'd run it by legal too,
Yes.
cause there's, I mean, you don't wanna, dog fighting and some dog getting
There's
chewed
all
up,
sorts of
fighting
pieces. I had
people.
no clue. I was like,
Yeah.
really? Cause I really wanted one. want
Well, I've
to.
been to one time, and I did not
Fairfield
go
has
back.
one that's great.
That was the one over at,
Need be
Westchester.
Okay.
Never went back. I thought that's,
I'll call, they have one in
I've
Westchester,
had two people ask me.
they have one
Mm.
in, Monroe, and they have one in Fairfield. I'll call those that helped put those there and ask their pros and cons too. That might be something good to bring.
I don't know that we wanted, I just thought, I said I
Yeah.
would say something,
Mhm.
so I said something.
Okay.
Based on what I see in our parks, I feel like every one of our parks is a dog park.
Yeah, well, I was thinking like of Glendale, maybe that would be
Ah.
a option for that park. If the soil, because who cares if it has a drainage issue, if you're just making, if it meets the standard, it wouldn't necessarily have to be for something else, and it doesn't have to be the whole park, it can be a smaller section or whatever, it was just a thought
No.
for that one, but I also have another thought with money too, and this is, I hate that each sign that we have for a park is $10,000. But I would like it, our parks aren't even we don't have any kind of signage up for a lot of our parks, there's nothing. Like Miami Park has no sign at all. Some of our parks, I think, would be nice if we had some kind of sign, and I had a friend that asked me, what's the name of the park that's on Manchester and Titus? That little one, Maple.
Mhm.
It's
Have
got a
movie.
frame, but no sign. The sign's been popped out. That
And there's
one.
actually a lot, I picked that park for a movie night because when I was driving around, there's a ton of kids.
There are, and so somebody asked me, and the person that lived nearby over on Princeton, one of the side streets, said, that's not a city park, is it? Doesn't have a sign. And she said, well, the people that live around there said that's their park. In the newer, where they built the houses, they said that's their park, it's not a city park. And I said, no, that's a city park. And they said, well, it doesn't have a sign. And I said, there's a sign there, it's just missing.
Who mows it?
It's missing its center. The center's popped out of the sign.
The car doesn't have a license plate, it's mine.
All right, so for the next meeting, if you come with ideas on assets or experiences for our parks that you brought up to tonight, I would encourage you to think about it over the next month and bring ideas that we could begin to evaluate.
I'd like to see something with nature and kids, they had nature stations and stuff.
They have that at Bull.
I was gonna say Bulls Run.
Mhm. That's actually pretty cool.
Ideas to come next month. Okay. New business? What else we have there?
We kind of talked about, the Damon Park, I just wanted to bring this conversation up just because I was approached this last week when I was at Damon. I guess 2 years ago, a couple of the council members met with that community, about different things, and I wasn't there. This is just what was told. The kids that approached me wanted to know if some of those ideas that they brought to that were gonna happen, and I didn't know what they were talking about. And I said, it's a whole new park board, that whole spiel. So I, and a couple other people from over there that went to that, I just charged them with, give me your list of what you wanna see, or you're welcome to come to Parks Board, it's open to the public. And I haven't gotten that yet, but hopefully, with a gentle reminder, they can provide that. And us at least take a look at it and see if there's anything, maybe there is an experience over there that, like you were saying, maybe there is an experience
Yeah.
that we can maybe do, that they feel heard, and because when that many kids, my understanding, it was like 20-some kids, preteen to teenage kids over there, giving their input. I don't want them to be discouraged and feel like they're not heard.
Right.
So, I don't know what happened 2 years ago, but this is where we're at.
So I called Zach and I asked Zach, was he a part of it? Because I pretty much knew it was the Zach and Rodney deal.
Okay.
And they went over there. Mainly Zach said the biggest topics were the streets, the sewers, and the lighting. The park was, and that's his quote, wasn't that much about the park.
Yeah, the biggest thing the kids said to me was the basketball court. That was the biggest thing, that they just wanna see a better basketball court.
Right, so what I also said to Zach was, I said, look, I appreciate, if you're a councilman, you're free to do whatever you want. But I go, if you're deliberately, or if you're purposely going to a park to have the meeting, and that topic may come up, I would appreciate that a park board member or the park board hears about it, so that maybe a member can be there to help field questions.
Yeah.
Not that they can't, not that Steve can't, I get all that, but this is where we get into this. Somebody goes and says something, and they listen, and then are words being, or promises being made, or where does this go? Where's it at in writing? Because to me, that's, the citizen is like, okay, we told you. And here we go again. The phone isn't answered. This,
Yeah.
where did this all go? Where's the information going? And I'd much rather have us just be quiet and catch crap than to go down there and promise or say yes, 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 or even give the intention that we're gonna try and do something.
Yeah, right.
So I was just curious what was being said in case something specific had been brought up about the parks. It's not hard. You walk that thing, and within 20 minutes, you can find 12 things that are wrong.
Yeah,
And one of them really is, I mean, this is a whole nother thing, is, I mean, there's some open boxes down there for electrical that I'm just amazed that they're still open like that. That makes no sense to me at all, but, but that was where I kinda was, and, I mean, I'll just say this now, at the moment, Jerry's the most in tune to the parks than any of us. She's conducting very successful events at these parks. She's hearing it in her ear. I don't even wanna ask how many people come up to you and say, blah, why, and this, which is great, right? I mean, so I would ask the group that we, maybe look to Jerry in this first topic of, what are the priorities, where are we going next with a new park to look at it? And, I think you're a very good source of information. They're not going to come to these meetings.
I know.
They're not going to come, not trying to be mean, but if we're gonna try and get something done, we need to kind of pull it from them where, at that park that you're at, and, and I feel bad I can't be there a little more in the middle of the day at these events, because it would be nice to have a park board representative there while these events are going on. But everybody's busy, I get that.
yeah.
But, I think we utilize her information, or what she's hearing, and what she is seeing as well. Maple Park, and then I'll end this, Maple Park is really not a bad idea for another piece of playground equipment.
I agree.
There is a ton of kids over there.
Tons. I was shocked. That's
No,
why we're
a
doing a
lot.
movie night over there,
A
because
lot.
I thought, you know what?
And they'll run up to John 23rd.
Yes.
I'll catch bikes a lot of times going up and down Manchester to go up there,
And also over to Wildwood.
and over to Wildwood.
Yeah.
Yes, over at the school, very well, exactly, Jewel. So that's where Damon Park was, but it was mainly more infrastructure more than the park,
Yeah.
is what I was.
As far as open electric boxes, I'm gonna email Charlie tomorrow, if not before I leave tonight, to see what the heck we can do now on that, because that's a safety issue in my opinion.
Yeah, the power isn't
It's
fed into
stripped.
those anymore.
They're stripped.
Right,
Yeah, the
right.
power's stripped out, it's just an unsightly.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make it sound like, I do not think there's a huge danger, but just clean it up.
Yeah,
And I get it, if you can't keep the lights operational over there, then pull them out.
or maybe we put lights, I mean, is that a conversation we have? If we're gonna have conversations about lights, I mean, maybe that's part of that conversation, I don't know. So, I just was really impressed with how many teenagers are engaged over there, that shocked me, to be honest. So, I wanted to feel heard and seen, so.
Okay,
On the next page, events, updates, just so you see my plate.
It's awesome, all the stuff you're doing. I know it's crazy for you, but
Good.
I've had a lot of people,
there it is.
even my neighbors are taking advantage of this, and they're going to these things and having lunch afterwards,
Yeah.
and, yeah, and they said, there's something every day.
Yeah, it's been
And
awesome.
so they're traveling, I think, with you.
Yeah, it's been, and
My
it
next
was
door neighbors.
super cool because people are coming to parks that they didn't even know
Right.
existed, and, yeah, so I'm tickled about it. This is week 2, week 1 about killed me. Today, we had easily over 100 and some kids in that park, today we were at Old South.
Okay,
And if you can imagine 100 kids at Old South was insane. But we did it, we made it work. We had Crazy Critters today. Again, every Monday we'll do Crazy Critters. And even though some of the kids from last Monday's Crazy Critters came to that, they came again today, and it's been awesome. It's been absolutely awesome. Parents are staying on site, and engaging in this, which I think's a win. They were saying that a lot of the programs, you just drop the kids off, but they love that they get to stay, and so the moms are all talking, and they're all talking, like, how can we engage, and I'm like, didn't expect that part of this, and like, now I'm like, okay, now the parents are talking, and we're engaging parents, let's keep this going. So, Arts in the Park could not have started off better, than what it's going. Farmers Market, the first one's done, we're coming up to the next one. By July, we have 30 vendors, cause obviously growing season's in, vegetables and stuff will be really in by July. And we have a solid 30 vendors, for July and August. And it's on Sundays. I was a little scared about that, but we had a great turnout for the first one. People are coming before they go to church and coming right thereafter. So, teachers are gonna appreciate it. Had a ton of teachers there past Sunday. Movie in the Park, Little Mermaid this past weekend was phenomenal. We had a few hundred kids come to that. And we had an actual character from the movie there that looked just like the character from the movie. It was crazy. She sang and everything. It was crazy. Food Truck Park going great. The next one is the end of June. Red, White, and Blues. Keene Tucker, she's a very well-known blues singer, award-winning. She'll be there. Excited about that. And then we're gearing up for the parade on the 4th and the fireworks on the 3rd. Good stuff. Burger Week. It's not a park thing, but everyone likes Burger Week. We have 23 participants this year, restaurants. Good luck trying all of them. Good luck trying all of them.
It's gonna be a 10-pound week.
Yes, it will. I put the Ohio Challenge in here just because, it is part of the events.
It actually doesn't start till 4.
Okay. I think I put noon, cause I set myself up at noon, I think.
That could be.
Farmers Market, and then we have a luau at the end of July. It's the last event for, Arts in the Park. I invite all the kids to come to that. We actually have a company from Hawaii that is coming and doing an authentic luau for kids in our town that have never experienced something. They bring leis and do dancing, and it's gonna be neat. It's gonna be really neat. So, no live music for that, but live entertainment for sure. So I have a busy 2 months, and somehow I am gonna actually take time on the 21st of this month and take 5 days off. I'm nervous about it, but I'm gonna do that because my kids are complaining that during the summer we don't go on vacations anymore. So we're gonna go somewhere for 5 days. Not really sure who's gonna run stuff when I'm gone, but we're gonna figure it out. Yeah, that's it on the events.
Now, is it 30th, the National Night Out?
Yes,
Right.
I didn't put that on there, but yes, National Night Out is the 30th, sorry about that.
Do you know where that's gonna be?
Smith?
Okay, let's approve the minutes from the, well, any other questions of Jerry on the events and activities? Keep it up, I don't know how you do it.
I pray a lot. It's the only way.
Takes a lot of elbow grease to get all that done.
Yeah. I have incredible volunteers. I cannot say enough about them. A lot of them have been with me for 8, 9 years, and I cannot say enough about them.
Hats off to them.
Yeah, good people.
So I'll entertain a motion for approval of the park board minutes from May the 13th, 2024.
Just one correction,
Yep.
nerd stuff. It's a Kentucky coffee tree, not a bean tree. I'm just letting you know, there's no botanical name for a Kentucky coffee bean
Where's that
tree.
at again?
It would be under new business, Earth Day, how did it go?
Yep, coffee.
Kentucky coffee tree, no beans.
I must have had coffee.
You're good.
It doesn't produce beans, Jerry. It's just
I'll-
coffee.
I'll second, I'll second the motion.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Who motioned it?
Steve.
He seconded
Oh.
it.
What?
You
Sure.
motioned, Julie motioned, Steve seconded.
I mean, I can sign that with a correction, correct?
Yeah, just sign it.
Big crazy deal.
Yeah.
Make a, take legislation forward.
Okay, comments. Let's go around the table. Danielle? Okay. Steve?
So all I would say is, back to Jerry, I wanna thank you. Some of us are not on Facebook, I understand that, but she does post a lot, and what she, and where she's been is how I keep up with her, because I can't remember anything. So she's been everywhere, it's amazing where she has been. I would encourage, because she brought up a topic of, we get these things started and then we only have one person running them. So I might encourage the board to send out, this is just a thought, send out an email to Paul, to Ashley, to whomever, Scott, and just let them know, if you are comfortable with that, Jerry has been putting a lot more people in these parks than ever before that I can remember. I can remember some of the movies, well, actually, probably one of the most entertaining events that would happen with council meetings
Yeah.
in the park. You
Yeah, the
couldn't
one-
get a better.
Well, the one at Sherman was
What?
famous.
Yeah, right.
Come on, man.
Oh, yeah.
Sherman was
Oh,
like, that made,
Well, we got,
it made news.
I was in LA and I saw it on the news out there.
Yeah, I mean, it made big news.
we may have to.
When was that?
We have to go to one side to get those participants, but, oh. that-
My dad was on council.
7,
Yeah,
something like
Dad and Shavoni and,
Ross
They had a
Simon, he
company,
got all
yeah.
famous on that deal.
and then Laura Williams, that was the big Laura Williams.
Then the
days.
only other thing is, I did meet with Ally, and I really did stress to her that I do feel she needs to come and educate us a little bit more about this ODNR grant, and get us to understand all the work that's gonna have to go into this. This is not something that's real simple, and what parts of the city it actually affects, and what parts it doesn't. So, talk to her about that. That's it, Dave, thanks.
Is she gonna come to the next meeting?
No, I think, I told her, give us another meeting,
So August, potentially.
because I knew I was hanging with, meeting with Greg, I knew Charlie's got his, we need to get some answers, because we need to stay, like Steve did for us, focused on getting this in front of council.
Mm-hmm.
So this is gonna take a while, she's writing it, because there'll be a consultant company may not do the actual work. They'll just be in doing the diagnostics and just looking at the plants, where then there'll be another company coming in and doing the work.
Gotcha.
So this is gonna take, we've got, what did she tell me? 028
Wow.
that we have. But I'm guaranteeing it'll take a year to 2 years to get this process and then start seeing. But they can be surveying while they're taking trees down. Once they get a quadrant done and things are approved, then they can start working.
Got it.
It's mainly start addressing just really weak and knocked out trees that need to get taken. Sorry.
Speaking of trees, not to interrupt, while you just, I did get a report, I included that if you guys wanted to look through that, just
I
look.
looked at that.
It was sent right before I came, so just wanted to make sure you guys saw
Thank you for
that.
that.
Julie?
Speaking of trees, I just have a comment. I know that we're taking down trees, and there's 13 that are on this list that we've taken down since the first, and I'm still looking at those dead trees in Sunset that are dead on the door now, plus some that need to come down that aren't quite as dead. And I guess I have a concern knowing that we're a tree city, and I'd like to see us make an effort to plant more. I'm just all about planting trees. and I don't know,
I've gotten that from you before.
I know you have.
It's all good. I'm with you.
And so whatever, whatever we can do, even if, whether it's an additional grant or whatever's available out there, I'd like to see us, planning more, not just in homes with the 150 that we do, but anything that we can do. I guess I always freak out when we're taking trees down.
Well, I mean, I would say, not to get into your time, but I would say again, this is something for Al. I would like somebody on the ground that's really working in this part of the world of the city and the tree planting. What is their thoughts? Is there a staff recommendation out there, which I think there is? It just doesn't always get seen. I think there's been some hours put into it. So again, I think and it's another good reason to have Ally come
Right.
over.
I agree.
And I appreciate it.
So I guess that was just a concern, especially with the ones that are still dead that are sitting there. There's one that
I wrote
has,
that down, I'm gonna check on that.
absolutely, I mean, at sunset on that northeast corner, it is just, and then when I was looking in there, there were several others that have, I mean, if you took a look, you would be like, oh, God. I'm just saying.
Sunset's old. It's kind of half and half. It's got a newer canopy and it's got a really old canopy.
And thank heavens there's some new ones in there,
Yep.
because that's exactly what's happened.
Yep.
Okay, and I wanna say thank you for whoever planted the planters downtown. It looks great that they all have flowers in them now.
Parks did that.
Parks did that.
3
Yay.
weeks ago.
Ally was
So I'm
watching
just-
that.
I know Ally, I know she's done it past, but I just wanted to say thank you to everybody, because it looks wonderful. And I also wanted to mention that the tennis nets are still not up. We have all the tennis
Where at?
courts. They're not up. There's one up that's dead. It's terrible. It's sagging and it's a mess. That is at Old South. There's 2 courts available, only one has, and it's a horrible net.
I noticed that today, I actually took a picture of that.
Yeah, it looks really bad. And then, the same thing at Miami Park. Miami Park has nothing. They have 1 court and it's got nothing up, so it has no net whatsoever. And then at, Gardner Park, it has 1 up and 1 down, and the 1 up is nasty. And looking at those tennis courts, they also need to have some kind of spray on, because they've got weeds. All of those 3 courts have weeds coming up through the cracks, and I mean, we're not talking like a little bit, we're talking,
Okay.
major. And the same thing with some of the, at Old South, the basketball court needs to be sprayed.
I noticed that today.
So, and it's not the only one, and I think there were a couple others, and I don't know whether maintenance takes care of that, or if that's a part of it, but it really would go a long way to making them look better. I mean, just spraying them, that would help. When I was at Sherman and I was looking at their sidewalk, and I know there's nothing that's going to be done to the sidewalks, there's weeds that look just like that, and if I were thinking about a stroller and trying to go, that would be like, absolutely not with a stroller, because it's lumpy, bumpy, and weeds everywhere between, and I don't know whether those can be sprayed, but it's a thought at Sherman.
I'll ask if, who sprays, how that works, how they.
Yeah,
clean it
cause
out.
that sidewalk between all of the,
No, I'm just, I'm gonna be curious to see that response on that email.
I'll copy it.
well, if we're truly trying to make it a walking event,
Yeah.
Me too.
I'll copy them.
I had
there's not a lot.
We're busy.
Cincinnati.
It's a busy.
Yeah, and I understand that, but if we're trying to make that a walking event for fitness, that's gonna be a huge deterrent if there's giant weeds in the way, or lumpy bumpy parts of that. So that's it.
Very good. Matt?
I pass, don't have anything to say.
So I have a couple things. First of all, from a housekeeping perspective, I want to make sure that our meeting minute notes are out there in the public domain. They are?
Yes,
Okay.
they get given to IT. This time, I did not get them this week, until today. get
I had to
them there,
call
but-
her, ask her.
Yeah, because it was sitting in
She's
my.
like, let me finish lunch and I'll get them out.
I did not.
Let's
do
get
that.
them out.
No, I had typed it up ready last week, and they sat in my.
Wake her up.
But our past minutes
No
are
Oh,
out.
yes, they
excuses.
are out there.
Okay. Normally, monthly, we get an activity report of what the Parks Department is out there doing, where they're spending their time.
Okay.
If you go back 6 months ago, you'll find meeting minutes, you'll get an idea of what that report looks like. I thought
Public Works,
yes, Ally could give you guidance on where to pull that.
Hours spent.
Hours spent and in what parks, what were they doing?
Okay.
It was very insightful.
okay.
With regards to cleanup, I'll bring it up again, the four-way intersection within Smith Park. I'd really like to see that cleaned up, because we're gonna have over 30,000 people in that park in the month of July, between the fireworks, the Ohio Challenge, and the night out. And I know Steve doesn't like that four-way, but it's there, so either remove it or clean it.
Yeah,
That's what I would say. It
Okay.
looks spectacular when it's cleaned.
yeah,
Right now, it looks like we live in the slums.
okay,
I don't like it.
okay.
One last thing about the Ohio Challenge in 45 days. Cohen will be celebrating 100 years scrapping in Middletown. They're gonna have their employee base there.
Yeah.
The projected 350 employees across their whole footprint on Saturday night will be there for their biannual employee event. And they have graciously sponsored a drone show, so you wanna make sure you come either night, Friday and Saturday. There'll be a 200 drone light show that's integrated with the fireworks show. That should be really cool.
Those are so cool to watch, man.
Did you see their sign, holy scrap?
Holy
Cohen's
scrap, we're
100 years
100.
old, I love that, man, I love it, it's cool.
Yeah. So, that's all I had.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
I second.
Thanks for your time. Good meeting.
And it's
Did your
only
sweatshirt, do you have a?
5 after
Did you-
7.
did your
Yeah.
sweatshirt-
Less than 2 hours.
That's half a council meeting.
Hey, does this bind
I do.
The other day, I woke up
traction
and
amongst?
I went to my
It's
physical
hard for the
therapy
course.
meeting, I
Yeah.
started physical therapy.
Well,
Are you okay?
And I, yeah, I'm
I never get done.
to where you're
Um,
taking